Just making sure I'm live. Okay, we're good to go. Hey, what's up, geeks? Darron here. Now, in case you missed the last two videos of this series, right now we're creating a news flow application. The purpose of this application is to show you how Redux works, to show you how React navigation works, to teach you how to create selectors, to teach you how to use the React Native Modal. And then also in this video, we're going to cover how to use the React Native WebView. Now, if you were a part of last week's live stream, you can see that I ran into some bugs when it came to the React Native WebView. Now, it turns out that there wasn't anything wrong with the library. I accidentally added text somewhere that it did not need to be, which is why I was getting that please include text within the text component. So that explains that issue. These types of problems are common within mobile development and just coding in general. So expect some hiccups from time to time. Now, in this walkthrough, we're actually going to complete our application and it's going to fulfill its purpose. Now, before I get started, I want to make sure that we have a good audience actually watching this live stream. So I'm going to give our audience some time to come in and we can go from there. And I'll give it about 5 minutes just to tune in. So before I get started, what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to give you a walkthrough of the application just so you can see how far we've come along. So I'm going to share my screen. Now, if we take a look at our application, I'm going to go to our index.js file. Now, within the index.js file, you can see that we have our application root component. And our application root component is what is actually registered and what is actually getting our application to show on the screen. If we take a look at the components being used within our app root, we can see we have our app component, which is wrapped in the provider component. The provider component has a prop called store. And that store component, its value is the store property, its value is store. So if we go into our store, you can see that our store has one reducer. That one reducer is our news reducer. You can see we have our news property and it's wrapped around our news reducer. And if I go into our news reducer, which is located in our news slice, you can see that we have a few things going on the screen. We have our fetch articles function, which is using the create async thunk within Redux Toolkit. We're making our synchronous calls here. Now, if I take a look at our fetch articles API, you can see our fetch articles API is calling this URL and it's getting the data from the response and it's returning that data. So if I go ahead and I look at, I'm just going to grab this URL. I'm going to go to paste it into our URL. You can see that we're getting back all of this data from this endpoint. And this endpoint, this data, if I go ahead and look at my Redux logger, try to see if I get this Android thing up and running, but I'm going to just get this out the way for right now. And I'm going to show my iOS. So if I take a look at my logger, we have our action pending, and we have our action fulfilled. Now, if we take a look at our action fulfilled, it returns this payload with all these different results. Now, if we take a look at the web view, you can see we have our payload and we have our results property. And within our results property, we're returning all of our data. And that's exactly what we're showing within our actions. Now, this application has a variety of different actions. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop the application and I'm going to restart it just so we can get a clean debugger. Now, if we take a look here, we can see that when our application first loads, it fetches the endpoint. So it's calling the data, the isLoading property is set to true. Once that data is successfully processed and has been returned to us, you can see it's been fulfilled, and it's our data array, our data property is filled in with all these different articles. All right, so when I go ahead and I take a look at, our code, if I go into our slice, you can see that we're passing in our payload.results, and our data property is getting updated with all of those results. Now, there's one more other sequence within here. We have a selector. Now, selector is more of an intermediate to high level process within React Native or just React applications in general. What selectors do is that it memoizes our data. It allows certain processes to only process when necessarily. A lot of times when you're getting data from an endpoint, you're mutating that data when you get it. And as a person returns to screens, they leave screens and they return. You don't want to keep making that, you don't want to keep calling that endpoint, and you don't want to have to keep reprocessing old functionality. So what selectors do, selectors actually allow you to memoize, to cache, to store data within your application. And if that data looks identical to what data is in the reducer, what data is called from the API, if it looks identical, it stops there. It doesn't process any other functionality. So this may be over your head if you're new to React Native, mobile development, or just development in general. But memoization and caching is something that you're definitely going to need to know as a React Native developer, professional developer in general, because it's going to reduce the complexity of your application. It's going to save load time. It's going to allow your application to flow a lot more smoothly if that data is just cached on the device. Now, I'm going to go into my app.js file. So our app.js file, you can see we're calling our app navigation. If I go into our app navigation component, our app navigation has two screens. That is the home screen and the save screen. Now, on the home screen, I'm going to close this. On the home screen, we're getting all of our data. Every article that is returned from this endpoint is showing on our screen. Now, our save screen is empty now. And our save screen is empty because we're not returning any kind of data. We're not saving any data. We're not saving any of the articles that we want within this application. Now, the functionality for that is already taken care of. So I'm going to take a look at our React Native debugger. Now, if I look at our React Native debugger, you'll see that we have two actions called so far. Now, once I save an article, we're going to get our save articles action is going to get called. We'll handle this red screen later, but don't pay attention to this for now. I'm going to close this. And now when we go back to our save screen, you can see we have our saved article here. All right. So this is as far as that we've gotten this application. Now, the purpose of this video, this tutorial, is to actually show you how to get those articles to show on your emulator. Because right now we're not showing any articles. We're just displaying the title, the author, and then also like the thumbnail. But you can actually read this article right now from the application, and we're going to actually install that within the app. I'm going to take a look and see who we have that joined us so far. Stop sharing my screen. Okay, we still have one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start coding because just save some time. So go back to present. Okay. Okay, so now let's rock and roll. Now within our home screen, right now I have a WebView component, which is taken from React Native WebView. I'm going to use this WebView component. I'm going to pass in a URL. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is that within our modal, I'm going to open our modal. All right. And I'm going to beneath my safe area view, I'm going to pass in my web view component. And I believe it's a source component I want to reference, the URI. So I'll close this. And within here, we're going to pass in a URL. So I'm just going to say https://Facebook, actually a podcast for men. Now, this is actually the website of a podcast that I have that I feature Saturdays. Not every Saturday, but when it is live, it's on Saturdays. So if you're interested in stuff like that, check it out. So I'm going to save this. It took some time to load, but as you can see, this is the podcast. It shows everything you want to have shown here within that screen. If I close this out, try to open it again, save article, shows the podcast again. All right, so the only problem is that it's not actually showing the URL of the article that we're trying to view. So we're going to update that right now. So what I want to do is, we have this on press load functionality right here. So I'm going to create a new, what is it called? I'm going to use my hook, use state. Here it is. Okay, so we're going to create another variable in the function that basically updates the state of our URL. So I'm going to have one that says URL. The next function is going to be called set URL. It's going to be equal to use state. And use state by default will be false. I'm also going to make modal visible false by default as well. So let me see. Okay, cool. So right now, I'm going to pass in. We're going to find a way to actually set our URL. So we have this function that we call save articles. What I'm going to go ahead and do is, we have this item in our save articles right now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see our URL. I'm going to go into our debugger. I'm going to take a look at how this object actually looks right now. So we have our URL of our article right here. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to see what shows up once I copy this. All right. Okay, and that's exactly what we wanted. So we have this, so we can actually pass in. We're already passing in into this function our item. So I'm going to pass in item.url. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll say set URL. I'm going to pass in item.url. URL by default will be an empty string. And now I'll go ahead and our URI will actually reference our URL. Okay. So I'll save this. Let's see what happens. So I'm gonna get out of here, see what's going on. We're updating this URL. So I'm going to console log and see what's going on right here. App URL. I'll go item.url. Let's see what this actually is doing for us. Okay, so I'm gonna make this a little bit easier on myself. In the console log, set item URL, grab this. I'm going to make the call right here. Okay. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and I'm going to console log our item. URL. Okay, I'm going to my debugger. We're going to get to the bottom of this. So item URL is done undefined, which makes sense. So now I'm going to get out of here. Oh, I get it. So within my selector, I have to update the selector. Right now, there is no URL. So I'll say URL, and I'll say article dot URL. Okay, cool. And now I have item. So I'm going to check this out. Okay, so now we have our item dot URL. I'm going to pass in dot URL. I'll take a look here. Yep, so it looks good. So I'm going to keep this right here. And now let's see what happens. Okay, awesome. So now we're getting our article to show, saying that basically I had to have an account with New York Times. Usually New York Times, they give you a time limit on how often they'll let you look at their articles for free. I've been using this endpoint for a while now. So they're telling me I basically have to have an account, a paid account to read the article. But you see the point. Now you see the article, Israel election empowers a more muscular religious Zion. I'm going to change the article while abortion rights shrink in the US. See if this is working. Yes, while abortion rights shrink in the US. So I'm going to update this functionality because it doesn't make sense for me to keep it here. So I'm going to return this back to how it looked. And I'm going to go back here. And I'll say set URL is going to be item.url. Error confrontation. Yes, error confrontation. So that works well. Now, right now, if we go to our saved articles, you can see that I click here, nothing happens. So we have to make sure this functionality is available throughout the application. I'm going to create a new component. So within my source directory, I'll create a components directory. And I'll call this component news article.js. News article.js. And I'm going to actually, should it be news article? I think that is. So that's good enough for right now. So I'll go ahead. I'm going to copy everything I have in this modal. Put in my news article. Functional component. Well, functional component. News article. Paste this in just like that. Okay, and now you can see it's expecting modal visible. And also set modal visible. Right, is there anything else that I'm missing? It has these styles. So let me go ahead and grab my styles. Obviously not using all these styles, but we need to pass in some of those styles. And then also the URL. URL. And I should be good to go from here. Okay, so now if I remove this, I'm going to bring in the news article. I don't know why it's let me make sure everything's like showing. Okay, everything's looking good. Okay, so this just took some time to process that. Components, news article, right? And I'm going to pass a news article right here. Visible, set modal visible, URL. I'm passing modal visible, set modal visible, and URL. Okay. Try to register 2 views with the same name. So 2 views have the same name right now. Check this out. What that was all about. Okay, so it looks good. His third summit. And I'm going to go to Senate control, see what happens here. Senate control. So now we have our news article component. It's working the way that we want it to work. Next thing that I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to add this functionality to the modal on our news articles, modal on our save screen. So here I'm going to go into, I'm going to paste in new screen just like that, identical to what we have here. And I'm going to also grab from our home screen, I'm going to grab this modal visible functionality, paste that in right here. Okay, cool. And then also the functionality here. So I'm going to say on press. I want to open this modal. So I'll say because the URI. So the URI is going to be, this is going to be unique. So I have to set the URI as well. So if I would have updated our components a little bit more savvy, a little bit different than this, it would have made more sense. I can go ahead. I'm thinking if I should go ahead and do it that way right now. I think I should. So I'll say news articles. I'll grab this. And then from my news articles component, I'm going to, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to grab what we have here, copy this, go to my news article component, paste this in just like that. Now I have news articles. Where's it at? News articles. So then just like that. Okay, cool. And oh, okay. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and change this up a little bit. So I'm gonna copy what we have here, go to my news article, post this right here, and then I'm gonna replace, grab everything I have on my modal, copy this out, and then replace all of that with this news article. All right, cool. And I need to add my article right there, and then also my save article type right here as well, this property. All right, so make sure that none of these components look awkward, they all work. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go back to my home screen, and now I'm going to remove everything that I have here, except the news article. I'm going to keep the news article, move all of this stuff, and news articles, pass the news article, and save article, just like that. All right, so save article is expecting an item, but we're already passing in that item, so we don't have to do that. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to save what we have here. Okay, so let me see, save article. So if I go ahead, send it control, all right, on press. Oh, I thought I messed that up. Okay. Where is this at? In my saved art? Oh, wrong component. So out of that. And where's my home screen? Let me restart this. Well, actually, go here. So it's the save article thing that's tripping out right now. Is this URL thing? So I'll go ahead. URL. Okay, cool. Now, let me check this out again. Okay, so things are looking good. Now, right now, we only have our news article right here. I'm going to take this component. I'm going to bring it into our save articles. And we have our news article. We do not want to save anything. So let's make sure we have that out the way. And Modal visible. One thing that we want here is we want to Modal visible have this here. So const Modal visible set Modal visible. By default, it will be false. Let me make sure I bring in the use state hook. Okay, and that looks good from here. But another thing that I need to bring in, because right now we have our URL, and we're already getting our URL when we pass that in. So I'm going to move that from here. Let me check on my home screen. The URL, do we need set modal URL? Because we pass this in. So I need to keep this right here. Set modal URL, and then URL. And where's the set modal URL? So I'll add this functionality here. So we have have the save article function. But instead on the save article, we want to go ahead and do, yeah, we have the save article thing right here. So what I want to go ahead and do for save article, passing in our item. For save article, I'm going to have to overwrite this function. So save article, boom, boom, boom. Let me see. We don't need to save this article. We just need to open our Modal. But we need a way to update the Modal. So let me take a look here. Save article. We dispatch this action. We don't need this action dispatch. Right now, we just need to open our Modal. So I'm going to go to my saved articles. Let me see what happens when I do this. Save articles. Okay, so that's what I thought. Save articles is not a function. So I have to pass in save articles and we'll set this URL. So I'm going to create a unique function here. Yeah, I'm going to have to do something unique within our news article, something funky. So I'll go ahead and say save articles. I'm going to create another property called saved. And I'm going to set saved for save articles. Saved is going to be true by default. So if saved is true, my news articles. So saved is true. So if that's on press article, so by default, save is going to be false. So I'm going to say if saved is true, this else do this. Okay. Now, if it is true, I want to just do on press, which I'll pass in on press. Let's say on press is going to do, going to set Modal visible to I'll just say call the on press function. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my news article, saved, and I'm going to say on press. And on press, I'm going to set saved. Yeah. On press, I'm going to use updated to item at URL. Okay. Yes. Yes, I don't even need this. So I'll go ahead, article. I have my saved article on, yep, press. And I don't even need, yeah, so if this is on press, actually, and I can just go saved. It needs the same property again. So saved article. Yeah, and I wonder on my home screen, what is it doing with save article? It's doing that. Okay, so let me get this to go. Save article is false. So it's passing in my saved article. Save article is not a function. Save article. Save article. Saying save article is not a function. It clearly is a function. So let me take a look here. I see what's happening. It's not passing in our news article. So we're getting the news article, passing in data for our article. It's not going through here. Oh, let's see. Saved article. Yes. So save article, we're passing in this. And we're saying if saved, saved. Okay, so saved article. This is not a function. So it shows us saved. Okay. URL. So set modal. Okay. So I have to have another article, another state. So I'll say you state new URL, set new URL. And this is going to be new state. Default is an empty string. So if it is saved, what I want to go ahead and do instead is set new URL. And I'm going to set the URL to be item dot URL. Okay. And then I'm going to reference the new URL right here. And I'll say if saved is true, I want to do this. Else, I'll do this. Okay. So I think it's saving. I think it's updating the URL. If I go ahead and I console log the URL, log new URL. So that clear. So okay, so yeah, it's getting the new URL. So that's cool. So we're getting there. So next thing you want to do is open this modal. Right now it's not opening the modal for me. And that's because I'm here. So if I can go ahead and I'm going to have to handle the modal visible here. So I'll say modal visible. Modal visible here is false by default. Okay, so I have to have this in my saved articles, modal visible false by default. And then what opens this thing? All right, so let me see. News article, if it is saved. So that means modal visible is going to be modal. Okay, so that's what it's looking for. Modal visible, and it's referencing modal visible right now. So modal visible is false by default. And open modal visible. So I need a way to basically update our modal to open. On press. See the on press, the thing I'm struggling with right now is that when you press, the on press functionality is here. So the modal visible, we have to set the modal visible here. I have to say set on modal. Modal visible. This is a quick little hacky way to do this. So set on modal. State false. The reason I have to do this because I have this save thing. So here, I'll go ahead and I'll say on set modal visible. Set this to previous state. Check this out. Well, I'll just say true. I know it's going to be true. True. And then once I close it, we have this close function button right here. So I have something like close modal. Press close modal. False. Yes. And then here, I'll grab this, copy, paste this right here. Okay. And now I'll just say on press close modal. Like that. And now we have modal visible. I'll say modal visible. If saved is true, and I'm going to have on modal visible, else this. Okay, that works. And now the way to close it. So if I go here, whoa, I got an S somewhere. So on press and set modal visible. Okay, so still not open this modal. Oh. All right, so got that to work. Gotten this far. So now to close it, it says to close my modal. Update this to false. Okay, cool. Now I need to make sure that this is actually working. All right, cool. That was a nice little short tutorial that we cover some really basic basic functionality when it comes to React Native. Stop sharing my screen. Oh my goodness, we got people, we got hackers on here now. I'm looking at the chat. I don't need any hot girls. I got enough. Bruce, I like, hey Bruce, man, what's up? Thank you for your support, man. I'm just doing what I can. When I first started learning React Native, man, honestly, it was so long ago, and React Native was so new. It just wasn't that much help on the internet. And you can buy as many books you want to buy. You can read as many you can go to as many tutorials, buy as many courses as you want. But until you have like that hands-on mentorship, I think you're always going to question your ability to be a software developer. So that's the purpose of me doing these live streams. Yes, I do have a React Native membership, GeekMODE membership, where I do sell courses, but the biggest part about it, the most important part, is the mentorship. You have opportunity to meet me, speak to me, ask me any kind of questions you want, and that's really what's going to accelerate you to the next level. So yeah, man, I appreciate your appreciation for what I do. Hack the coding. What's up, man? Also I do this live stream. We can cover coding. We can also cover any other questions you have for me around React Native or any kind of software development questions you may have. Now, while we're doing this, while you get your questions together, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new GitHub repo, and I'm going to save all of this code here so you can actually review it on your own time. So I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to go to GitHub. And just so you know that I really do this, you can see that I'm very active. Reason that I took time off here because I had a child, so I took some time off work. But you can see, man, I'm really active. I hate doing code reviews, but code reviews is something that's needed in the professional world. I'm going to call this Live News App. You can check this out whenever you want to check it out. Create repository. And the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is initialize my project. So go here, get in it. I'll do git at all. So let me say git status. Git at all. At everything. So git add dot. Now git status. Okay, good. And I'm going to say git commit completed. Good news application. News tutorial application. News live tutorial. Okay. Status. If you don't know about Git, get familiar with Git. Git is something that you're definitely going to need to know if you want to become a professional developer in general. Companies are going to ask you this during your interview. So make sure that you get familiar with how Git works and how it works with GitHub. Now, it's telling me to create this branch, but I don't like creating main branch. I like creating the master branch and git push origin master. So get this git push origin master. Put that in there. Now it should be okay. So if I refresh this, okay, awesome. So I'm going to copy this link right here. I'm going to let me put this back down. Go back to our chat, and I'm just going to post that in the chat. So just in case you want to review any of this stuff, stop sharing my screen. In case you want to review any of this code, just go ahead. You can check that out whenever you need to. Also, what was something else? Oh, that was it for today. What I'm going to go ahead and do is that there's a famous YouTuber by the name of Mike Thurston. Mike Thurston has he has well over 1 million subscribers, but he has this application where he recommends diets to you. In the next tutorial, we're going to rebuild the Thirst application. And the Thirst application, from what I could see, there's a search component. I'll teach you how to create a search component. Also, I'll teach you how to use a flat list to show 2 columns, which is going to be pretty unique. And then also, we're going to also hit those. I'm going to show you how to use that data and redirect that data and display it on a new screen. And that's kind of what he does within that Thirst application. So I think it'd be fun just to take a live application, show you how it's actually architected and how components are created, and get you thinking like a professional software developer. So anyways, thank you for watching this. Like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you come next time with any kind of questions that you have, because that's why I'm here. And yeah, I'll catch you next time. All right. Peace.